Hey guys, welcome back to Freckle Face Finance, where we discuss personal finances open and honestly so that you can live the life that you deserve. So I recently passed my PMP exam and I am super excited about it. I actually made a video if you're interested in any tips on how to pass the exam. I also posted my study notes on Etsy. You guys can check those out. So those notes include tons of practice questions and answers, as well as definitions and different concepts that I wanted to make sure that I remembered while studying for the exam. So if you guys want to check that out, I will link that down below. And of course, you guys can check out the YouTube video for tips on how to study for the exam as well. So this video will actually go over how to complete the PMP application, which is required before you can even schedule the exam. So if that sounds like something that you are interested in, then keep on watching. Now, just to give you guys a smaller disclaimer, I don't think that you can complete the application in a day. It took me about a week to complete the application, so just kind of like manage your expectations with that. Now, if you watch this video before you create your account and before you start your application, you can probably potentially complete the application in a day because you're prepared. But when I was just going straight in, I didn't know what to expect and I was not able to complete the application in a day. So just to give you guys that small little disclaimer. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you guys step by step on how to complete the PMP application. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my laptop and we can get started. Okay, so first things first, you're going to have to navigate to the PMI website in order to register for an account if you don't already have one. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. So we're going to go ahead to pmi.org, and that is where you sign up for your PMI account. So we're going to go ahead to the right side of the screen and we're going to select register. So here you're going to type in all of your personal information in order to create your account. Now, make sure that this is accurate with your valid driver's license or ID, because you're going to need this information when you actually schedule your exam. It's going to have to be exactly the same as well as when you take your exam. So your certificate, all of that is going to be connected. So make sure that you use your proper name when registering for your account. Okay, this is all pretty self-explanatory. I am located in the United States and my email is frecklefacerunner@gmail.com, and we're going to go ahead and create a password. Okay, so let me just double check the verification code. So let me put that in and we can get started. Okay, so we went ahead and created our account. Okay. So we're going to navigate to the top left hand side of the screen, and under certifications you can see the different certifications that they offer. We are interested in the PMP, and so we're going to go right here underneath this certification section and we're going to select Project Management Professional. And so now we're going to navigate to the right hand side of the screen and we're going to select Apply Now for your PMP. So this first part is all pretty self-explanatory. So here, select your highest level of education. So your level of education is going to dictate how many hours of professional project management experience you're going to have to show on your application. So if you have a high school diploma, and yes, you can still be PMP certified with a high school diploma, you have to be able to show 60 hours of project management experience where you are leading projects. Now, if you have a 4-year degree or a bachelor's degree, you're going to have to show 36 hours of project management experience where you are leading projects. So that is going to matter when you're completing your application. So my highest level of education is a master's degree. So you guys can select whatever applies to you. Years attended, ooh, y'all, I'm going to be showing my age here. So I went to school. I got my master's in 16 through 19, I believe. It took me a little minute, y'all, but you know what? Bees get degrees as well. Name of the institution. I'm just gonna make something up. There are, I do share a lot of stuff online, but there are just some things that I just need to keep private. Money Making University. And my field of study was finance, because I was going to study to be a professional YouTuber, you guys. So we're going to go ahead and save our education. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and scroll down to the professional education section. And so your professional education is where you're going to list the training that you took in order to prepare or be able to apply for the exam. So if you scroll down here to the right hand side of the screen, you will see that it is now highlighting professional summary. And so that is the number of training hours that you need in order to be able to take the exam. And so this professional education is where you're going to list any type of classes or courses that you took in preparation for the exam. Those count as professional education hours. So I'm going to go ahead and list those here. So I don't remember the exact name of the course that I took, but I'm going to go ahead and just kind of like push something in just so that we can move on to the next stage of the application. And so because I took that training, it was a week-long training, and it was actually, I think, 40 hours. I only needed 35, so I went ahead and just put 35 here. And so now that is highlighting green so that I can move on to the next section. This is the part of the exam that is going to take you the longest, and this is why I personally was not able to complete my application in a day. But because you guys have watched this video, you're going to be a little bit more prepared than I was. And so when you complete this section, I definitely recommend that you write out your experience in a Word document, and then you copy and paste that into this application. I think that it will allow you more time, and it's just easier to be able to see all of your experience in one place and lay it out so that it's nice, clean, and you can just paste it into the application. Okay guys, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up my Word document of where I like to type my project management experience so that I can copy and paste it into my application. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. So I tried to simplify for you guys so that you can see I broke it down into different sections. And so each project that you have, you're going to list the project title, the organization that you worked for, or the company, your job title, and then the project dates. And so the project dates are really important because they cannot overlap. And so if we go back here to this application, you will see that you have to have 36 months of project management experience because I have a secondary degree. Now, if I had a high school diploma, I would have to have 60 months of experience that I am able to talk to on my application. So the dates that you put in are going to automatically calculate on your application. So they're really important. And if you have two projects going on simultaneously, they're not going to count both of them. So the projects cannot overlap. They have to be independent of one another. So I went ahead and listed these different categories for you because this is how I completed my application. And everyone that I have helped in my personal life complete their application, I have told them to complete it in this specific way, and none of them have got audited. So I think that this way of completing it is tried and true. And so if you complete your application in this way, I can't guarantee that you won't be audited, but I think it will really decrease your chances and likelihood of being audited. But if you get audited, it's not that big of a deal. I do know other people who have completed the application, they did get audited, and it worked out completely fine for them. So they were able to submit the documentation that they needed, and everything worked out and they got approved. So don't be afraid of getting audited. There's no like PMP police that are going to show up at your house. So just make sure that you're being honest on your application, and if you do get audited, it's no big deal. So each project that I had, I listed out the objective of the project, initiating phase, planning, execution, controlling and monitoring, closing, as well as the outcome. So I'm going to give you guys a really detailed example of what that will look like when you're completing the application in this format. Now, can you complete the application in another format? I'm sure that you can, but this is the format that I used, and this is the format that I have my friends use, and we have not gotten audited using this format. So the project examples that I'm going to show you guys today are real life examples of work that I have done. So you can't really like copy and paste this specific example, but I am showing it to you so that you guys can see how I wrote it out. And if you have a similar project, of course, put in your own information. But this is just showing you guys an example of a real life project that I completed. So let's go ahead and get into my example. So I worked on this project from 2022 to 2023, and the sole purpose of this project was to build an additional office space for the organization that I was working for. So we had a whole lot of projects that were coming down the pipeline, and so in order to work on those projects, we needed a bigger space because we were going to have to hire more people, and we were just going to need more materials. And so in order for that to be efficient, we were going to have to just have a bigger space. So I was tasked with overseeing the construction of our new office space. So the purpose of the project is what I put for the objective. So the objective was to build out a new space to hold more people, and that is what I put for the objective. So during the initiation phase, that is when you are building out your case. You're saying, hey, we need a space that's going to be able to hold this amount of people, this amount of desks, this amount of storage capabilities. This is what we're thinking the space is going to be. This is how long we're thinking it's going to take, and this is how many people we think we're going to need in order to make this project successful. And then you're wrapping all of that into a nice little bow, and you're pretty much begging for money in order to make your project happen. And so that is what I indicated in the initiation phase of this particular project. So the planning phase of the project is when I got with my team and we identified who was going to do what. What was our teammates' greatest strengths? What were their weaknesses? When were they planning on being out of the office? Like, were those out of office times going to align with any important project deadlines? So we're just pretty much planning out the entire project, important deliverables, anything that would be necessary in order to oversee the construction of this project. And so this is where I like to call out the specific deliverables for the project. So for this particular project, the deliverables were we needed pictures in order to identify that the construction was conducted properly, because at the end of the day, when our building was completed, we couldn't just move people into the building. So once construction was completed, we had to submit a package in order to get approval from local government that this was constructed in an appropriate manner and that we can start working in there. So there was a lot of documentation that needed to take place along the way. And so I made sure to call out those specific deliverables so that I can make sure that the package was going to, document correctly everything that we needed in order to apply for our building permit, or whatever you want to call it, in order to apply for our building to be able to host people and so that we can start working in it. And so once the planning phase was completed, we moved on to the execution phase. And I'm detailing this, as you can see, in my application. So it's a very, very detailed application. And so in the execution phase, it's pretty much everyone doing their job, me as a project manager or as the project lead, making sure that I'm addressing any issues as they come up. And there's always going to be issues in every project that you have. You're going to think that you're going to plan for all of the issues that you foresee, and then there's going to be some in the background that you never even thought would be an issue. So yeah. So that's just very interesting. Like, once you actually start planning projects, it's a lot of fun, and I just like being the problem solver. So if you also get excited about problem solving, project management is going to be a good career field for you. And so monitoring and controlling, like I said, is very similar to the execution. So execution, everyone is doing the work. And then monitoring, you're like overseeing the work and making sure that you're addressing any issues. And so in the background, you're also going to be making sure that you are communicating the progress and any issues and solutions up to the resource sponsor and to senior leadership. So there's always going to be someone who cares about your project. So you're going to make sure that you are scheduling reoccurring meetings with them, and that you're making sure that everyone is abreast on what's going on with your project, because you don't want to get to the end and then someone is like, oh, I didn't know about that. We wouldn't have done it like that, and that's going to be a big issue. You want to make sure that along the line, like as you're doing a project, you are informing everyone as it is occurring and giving people like reoccurring updates, so that you can make sure there's not going to be any big issues at the end, hopefully. And so after monitoring and controlling, we're going to move on to closing out the project. So the closing section, you're going to detail what you did to close out that project. So most of the time, there's going to be some type of library where you're going to be documenting or storing all of the documentation related to your project for auditing purposes, or so that other people who are working on similar projects can find resources in the material that you collected while you were doing your project. So that's going to be in your closing section. Now, something additional that I like to add on to all of the projects that I submitted with my application was an outcome section. And so not every project is going to have a blissful, butterfly-esque outcome. So in my case, my project, this particular building project, completed over schedule. So we were like, it took longer to complete it, and we was over budget. Which, you know, that's life. So I want you guys to know that if you do have a project that doesn't seem like, you know, it was successful with being, you know, on time and within budget, that doesn't necessarily mean that the project was not successful, right? So success for this project was rated with receiving the building permit to operate within the building. So for us to be able to move our personnel into this building and start working, that was what success was measured by. So although the project was over budget and outside of the scheduled parameters, the project was still successful. And so one of the things that I think a lot of you guys might have issues with as well is that my project was over schedule and over budget because there were just delays in COVID that we just were not able to predict. We just weren't. And so not only were, like, you know, people sick, and that led to like us being over schedule, but also the building materials, in order to actually build our facility, the price of the materials just skyrocketed. So we just could not plan for that. We weren't able to plan for it in the extent in which they actually increased in being able to provide those materials and equipment. So, okay. I documented that within my application, and I still got approved to go ahead and take my exam. So I just want to tell you guys that little example because it's going to show that, you know, every project, when you're being realistic in your application, every project is not going to be perfect. And I would like to believe that the people who are reviewing the applications know that. And so don't try to force anything and pretend that, you know, all of your projects are perfect, because in reality they probably weren't. So now that I showed you guys that example of what I did in Microsoft Word, I'm going to show you guys just how I copy and paste that and what that looks like. So if we go here to the project title, it was building construction, and so we're going to just type in building construction. Organization, we are going to type in, y'all know I work for the federal government. And no, none of those. And so my job title at the time was security manager. So functional reporting area was, I worked inside a PMO, which is a project management office. And the organization's primary focus, it was not construction. We were just working on construction at that time, but you can go ahead and select anything really. So, you know, whatever is most applicable to you. I'm going to say government. In approach methodology, we did the traditional waterfall. So you guys can Google these terms and determine which is most applicable to your project. In my personal experience, I don't believe that there is a wrong or right answer. So you are certifying that you have this project management experience. You're not certifying that you know 100% what you're talking about. I know that sounds so crazy, you guys, but in all honesty, you can fill out this application, you can get approved to take your exam and not pass your exam. Like, this is not certifying that, you know, you're the greatest project manager ever, right? You're just certifying that this is your project management experience, or this is your experience in leading projects. So there is no right or wrong answer. Google the terms, find out which one is most applicable to you, and just select what works out best for you. Project team size, we had about 5 to 9 people. Project budget was between 5 and 10 million, and project dates December 2022 to December 2023. So this is where you're literally going to go to your Word document and you're just going to copy and paste everything that you wrote out. And you guys saw how much I wrote in that Word document, and that was only 670 words. So you guys are going to be fine. So what I recommend, if you guys see on this application, it is going to show you that a typical response is between 200 and 500 words. I recommend that all of your responses need to be over at least 200 words. Like, I personally don't see how you can complete the application for your project in less than 200 words. Now, y'all may prove me wrong. If you have had a successful application where you didn't get audited and you had less than 200 words for your projects, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. Show the people that it's possible. None of mine were like that. None of my project like input or project descriptions were less than 200 words. They all, like, as you can see, this one was 670 words, and all of them were pretty much very similar to this. And so if you guys would like to see my other projects and what I wrote for those descriptions, I will have a link to my Etsy in the description down below. You can purchase that. I'm going to probably list it for very similar to how I had my project management notes listed. I am always a big advocate for people who are low income. I have a lot of free information on YouTube, and then my Etsy supporting documents are always, in my opinion, very, very affordable. But if you find the price of my project descriptions just to be a little bit out of reach, I will also leave in the description below a YouTube video that I watched that helped me build out my project descriptions. And so I found that video to be very, very helpful. So you guys, I will leave that in the description box below so you guys can check out that additional free resource if you need it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this save experience, and then as you see on the right hand side, it lists out, you know, 13 of 36 months, because that's how much I listed as the time frame for this project description. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and add additional experience, and we're going to move on to the next project. So I'm going to go ahead and list my other projects here, and then I'll come right back when everything is completed. And so I want to show you guys an example of what happens if you have a project that overlaps. So as you see here, I have 32 out of the 36 months. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to have my next project mimic the same timeline or overlap with the timeline before it. So we're going to have this project go from, let's say, June 2021 to March 2022, which that's going to fall right within that same timeline. And we're just going to put anything here. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and save that experience. And as you can see, it did not increase the amount of months that I have for my project management experience. So you want to make sure that you're listing out projects that do not overlap. And if you are having an issue where you see that your count is not going up, it's because your projects are overlapping. So you want to make sure that you're listing projects that are independent of one another and that they're not overlapping in time frames. So we're going to go ahead and edit that experience to be from January 2024 to July 2024. So we're going to save that experience, and as you can see, it went ahead and highlighted green on the right. So we are good to move on. Where do you intend to take your exam? We plan to take our exam in the United States. Okay, and so as you can see, it is giving you this warning that you want to make sure that you input your information correctly, because it's going to be exactly how it's going to be on your certificate. So you want to make sure that you're paying extra close attention and you're inputting this information correctly. So once you put in your address, your email address, you're going to list if you have any exam accommodations. You agree, everything is accurate, and then once you put everything in, you're going to see this purple button highlight. So if you need to, you can go to the top of the screen and navigate back to any of the prior sections if you want to make sure that you input everything in correctly. Alright guys, so that is it for today's video. I hope that you found it helpful. If you would like tips on how to prepare for your exam, like I said, I already created a YouTube video on that, so go ahead and check that out. If you would like to see my PMP study notes, you can go ahead and check those out on Etsy, as well as my project descriptions that I use when I applied for my PMP application. So as always, I hope you guys found it helpful. If you enjoyed it even a little bit, please make sure to give me a thumbs up so it can be pushed out to a larger audience. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel so that you can be notified of when I make future videos. If you have any recommendations on future videos that you would like to see, of course, just leave me a comment down below. I love to hear from you guys, and I'll see you in my next one. Thanks. Bye.